Conflict theorists would view religion through the lens of power and how the social order is controlled through religion. It would also consider how social inequality is justified or legitimatized through the teaching of certain religious beliefs. Conflict theorists tend to be highly critical of religion because it tends to perpetuate inequality through the status quo. Karl Marx referred to religion as the opiate of the people when he stated, "Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the sentiment of a heartless world. It is the opium of the people." He was referring to religion being like a drug for workers, as it allows them to forget their misery. When workers believed in happiness in the afterlife, it helps them get through the present-day suffering. That then reduces the change of rebellion by the people and allows the status quo and class inequality to continue. Another aspect of religion is that it teaches that the existing social arrangements are what God intended. An example of that is the doctrine of the divine right of kings, the belief that God ordained who would become king and set them on the throne. Some religions presented the idea that the state leader was the god. For instance, ancient Egyptian religion proposed that the pharaoh was God, and the emperor of Japan was declared to be divine. Other aspects of religion also reinforce social inequality, such as the caste system of Hinduism, or Civil War-era Southern ministers that declared slavery was ordained by God, while the Northern ministers declared it evil. Max Weber considered the role of religion in society, and remember, he was often at odds with Karl Marx. Max Weber thought that religion was the profound source of social change. Weber thought that religion was the primary key to modernization. He wrote about this in The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. He thought that Protestantism, particularly Calvinism, and that refers to the teachings of John Calvin, which taught the followers that they had a duty to lead moral lives and work hard, to use their time productively, and to be frugal, because idleness and needless spending were signs of worldliness. This approach was labeled by Weber as the Protestant ethic, because any excess money should not be spent on material goods, which would be thought of as excesses indulging in worldliness. So then, money was invested, which leads to more productivity. So in essence, Weber believed that Protestantism, and particularly Calvinism, supported and even to some extent led to capitalism. Sociologists refer to 4 different types of religious groups: cults, sects, churches, and ecclesia. Cults are referring to religious groups that are at odds with current mainstream religious beliefs. A new or different religion whose teachings and practices put it at odds with the dominant culture. Under that definition, all new religious practices are cults. When Christianity started 2,000 years ago, at that time, it would be a cult. Often cults emerge when there is a charismatic leader, someone who's viewed as being the person that God has ordained with a special gift. A sect is larger than a cult, but not a large enough group that they are accepted as a legitimate religion. Their belief system still clashes with the dominant culture. If they can grow enough to become integrated into society, their group's status will change from a sect to a church. Once a group becomes a church, it has grown to the size that it needs some way of organizing through a bureaucratic structure. There will be an organizing body or head of the church, either on a national or even an international basis. The relationship with God may not be as intense for members. People are not as often recruited from outside the church. The idea of an ecclesia is a religious group that is so integrated with the dominant culture that it's difficult to tell where one starts and the other stops. This is sometimes referred to also as a state religion. This chart allows us to see the differences in these groups according to various different dimensions. All religious groups will fall somewhere on this chart. The points to the left and the right of this chart helps you to consider some of these different dimensions of cults, sects, churches, and ecclesia. In the U.S., about 65% of our population belongs to a church, a synagogue, or a mosque. Our religious affiliations are also stratified by social class, as the next slide will show. In general, church-like groups tend to have members that are higher social class, while sect-like groups tend to have more people that are less worldly in their success. This slide helps us see distribution of different religions according to family income, educational attainment or college degree, and occupational prestige. Do any of these distributions surprise you, or do any of them resonate with images or stereotypes you might associate with these religions? The next couple of slides allow you to think about how many people are members of various religious groups in the U.S. The large majority of people in the U.S. are Christian, with most of those identifying as Protestant or Roman Catholic. Regarding non-Christian religions, less than 6% of the entire U.S. population identifies with one of the non-Christian religions that are dominant religions in other geographic regions. 22% of Americans state that they don't have any identification with any religion, with a smaller percentage stating they are either agnostic or atheist. Technology has created the ability to worship remotely through television or even the internet. For the past 50 years, worship via televangelists like Pat Robertson has become very popular. This method of reaching viewers and raising large sums of money started out originally as a way of reaching shut-ins, but has become popular with people that might otherwise be able to attend live worship services. Where might the future of religion lead us to? As mentioned in the previous slide, there's some movement toward connecting people virtually. There are purposes that religion serves, even in a secular society. For those questions that science cannot answer, religion provides meaning. Those issues such as the purpose of life, whether an afterlife exists, as well as guidance on morality, are all issues that religion creates answers for. So that ends our chapter on education and religion. We discussed the purpose of education and how it reproduces social class distinctions, and talked about common issues that the educational system faces. We also discussed how sociologists would view religion and how it's an organizing principle in the social order, and what kinds of current issues our religious institutions face.